The World is Flat, a book written by American journalist Thomas Friedman, was first published in 2005. The book focuses on the impact of globalization and the changes brought about by Internet technology on the world. In the book, author Thomas Friedman draws on his personal observations and experiences to introduce the reader to the importance of globalization and how it has affected everyone's lives. The title of the book, The World is Flat, implies that the effects of globalization have made the world equal and that in this era of globalization, everyone has the opportunity to participate in the process of globalization. In the book, the author describes a globalized world driven by the flow of technology, trade, and information that has brought the people of the planet closer together. The author also mentions how Internet technology has made it easier for people around the globe to communicate, collaborate, and share knowledge. The book describes in detail the effects of globalization, such as how it has made trade between countries freer and more open, how it has increased the efficiency and productivity of work, and how it has facilitated the development of multinational enterprises. In addition, the author mentions the impact of globalization on education and human resources. He argues that with globalization, people need to have more skills and knowledge, which requires the education system to change along with it in order to develop more global talents. The book also touches on some of the challenges of globalization, such as how globalization affects the wealth gap and environmental issues, and how to deal with the cultural impacts of globalization. In the first chapter of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman discusses the origin of the term flat. He argues that the essence of the tiebreaker refers to globalization, a phenomenon that has led to the increasing interconnection of nations and regions on the planet, creating a relatively equal playing field. In discussing the origin of the tie, the author mentions several important events and trends. First, he points to the wave of globalization that followed the end of the Cold War, which led the world's nations to become more active in trade and cooperation with other countries. Second, the author mentions the impact of technological advances on globalization. He argues that with the advancement of technology, the flow of information and resources has become easier and faster, which has accelerated the process of globalization. The author also points out that the origin of the parity is also related to the rise of capitalism and free market economy. He argues that the rise of both has facilitated international trade and investment, which in turn has driven the process of globalization. Finally, the author mentions the impact of Internet technology on globalization. He points out that the development of Internet technology has made it easier for people to communicate and trade across borders, further facilitating the process of globalization. Overall, the first chapter of The World is Flat introduces in detail the origin and background of the phenomenon of globalization. Through an in-depth analysis of the causes and trends of globalization, the author demonstrates the importance and impact of globalization in today's world. This also lays the groundwork for the subsequent chapters, allowing readers to better understand the advantages and challenges of globalization. In the second chapter of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the 10 forces of flatness that are the main drivers of globalization and the progress of flatness. The following is a detailed description of these 10 forces. 1. New players in globalization. This force refers to the rise of emerging market countries, such as China, India, Brazil, and Russia. The economic strength of these countries continues to grow, becoming an important driving force in global economic development. 2. New platforms for globalization. This force refers to the Internet and other emerging technologies, such as social media and smartphones. These new technologies make it easier for people to communicate and cooperate across borders, further facilitating the process of globalization. 3. New workflows of globalization. This force refers to the impact of globalization on the way businesses and organizations produce and manage. Globalization allows businesses and organizations to operate more flexibly and to make better use of global resources. 4. New competition of globalization. This force refers to the new competitive environment brought about by globalization. Globalization makes companies and organizations need to focus more on efficiency and innovation in order to win in the global market. 5. The new cooperation of globalization. this force refers to the new cooperation opportunities brought by globalization. Globalization has made it easier for companies and organizations in different countries and regions to cooperate and develop markets and resources together. 6. New political forces of globalization. This force refers to the impact of globalization on the political landscape. Globalization has made it necessary for different countries and regions to work more closely together to deal with global issues, such as environmental protection and counterterrorism. 7. New media of globalization. This force refers to the impact of globalization on the media and news industry. Globalization has made it necessary for the media and news industry to pay more attention to global issues and to be more flexible in their operations. 8. The new globalized consumer. This force refers to the new consumer market brought about by globalization. Globalization has made it easier for consumers to access products and services in the global marketplace and to consume more according to their needs and preferences. 9. The new producers of globalization. This force refers to the impact of globalization on the way and place of production. Globalization allows for greater flexibility in production and better use of global resources. 10. New rules of globalization. This force refers to the impact of globalization on international rules and standards. Globalization has made it necessary for different countries and regions to work more closely together to develop more just and effective international rules and standards. By presenting these 10 forces, the authors demonstrate the multifaceted impact and importance of globalization and the equalization process. These forces not only affect the way businesses and organizations operate, but also influence the evolution of the global political and economic landscape. In the third chapter of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the flat platform. This platform refers to the Internet and related technologies, especially the openness and pervasiveness of the Internet, which provide an important support and foundation for the globalization and leveling process. The following is a detailed description of this platform. First, the openness and universality of the Internet provide the basis for globalization and the tie-breaking process. The Internet is an open platform on which anyone can create websites and applications, and this facilitates the free flow of information and resources. In addition, with the popularity of smartphones and tablets, more and more people can use the Internet anytime and anywhere, further accelerating the globalization and leveling process. Second, the communication and collaboration functions of the Internet support the globalization and tie-breaking process. The Internet has made it easier for people to communicate and collaborate across countries, such as using email, video conferencing, and instant messaging tools. These tools make it easier for people in different countries and regions to cooperate and communicate, further facilitating globalization and the tie-breaking process. Again, the search and distribution functions of the Internet support the globalization and tie-breaking process. The Internet's search engines and social media platforms make it easier for people to access information and resources, which also facilitates the globalization and tie-breaking process. In addition, the digitalization and distribution capabilities of the Internet make it easier for businesses and organizations in different countries and regions to conduct business activities, such as online sales and supply chain management. Finally, the innovation and openness of the Internet supports the globalization and equalization process. The Internet is an innovative and open platform on which anyone can innovate and grow, and this facilitates the globalization and leveling process. For example, many emerging technology companies and entrepreneurs have taken advantage of the innovation and openness of the Internet to develop many new products and services that further drive globalization and the equalization process. In short, the Internet and related technologies provide an important foundation and support for, and play a key role in, the globalization and equalization process. In Chapter 4 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the concept of networked operating systems. NOS refers to software and services that run on the Internet and provide the essential support and foundation for the globalization and leveling process. The following is a detailed description of the NOS. First, web operating systems provide an open and shared platform that allows people in different countries and regions to collaborate and communicate more easily. For example, email services and instant messaging tools make it easier for people to communicate and collaborate across borders. In addition, web-based operating systems provide many tools for online collaboration and resource sharing, such as online document editing and file sharing services. Second, web operating systems support the globalization and leveling process, especially in business and trade. For example, many e-commerce platforms and supply chain management systems have been developed based on web-based operating systems, which enable businesses and organizations to conduct business activities more easily and facilitate global trade and distribution. In addition, web-enabled systems offer a number of online payment systems and digital currencies that make it easier and safer to pay and transfer funds across borders. Again, the search and distribution capabilities of the web operating system support the globalization and tie-breaking process. Search engines and social media platforms make it easier for people to access information and resources, further facilitating the globalization and tie-breaking process. In addition, the web operating system provides a number of online media and digital content distribution platforms that make it easier for content creators to publish and distribute content, further facilitating the exchange of culture and knowledge. Finally, the innovative and open nature of the web operating system supports the globalization and equalization process. The web operating system is an innovative and open platform on which anyone can innovate and develop, which also facilitates the globalization and equalization process. For example, many emerging technology companies and entrepreneurs have taken advantage of the innovation and openness of the web operating system to develop many new products and services that further drive globalization and parity. In short, networked operating systems are an integral part of the globalization and flatness process, providing an important support and foundation for people and playing a key role in this process. In Chapter 5 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the concept of software outsourcing. Software outsourcing refers to the process of delegating software development to companies or individuals in other countries or regions in order to gain cost advantages and technical advantages. The following is a detailed description of software outsourcing. First of all, software outsourcing can save the development cost for enterprises. Outsourcing software development to companies or individuals in other countries or regions can reduce development costs, especially in terms of labor costs and equipment costs. For example, many companies have set up development centers in India and China to take advantage of the local technical talents and resources to develop software. Secondly, software outsourcing can provide technical advantages for enterprises. Many countries and regions have professional software development teams and technical talents, and entrusting these teams and talents to develop software can bring technical advantages to enterprises. For example, India and China have many software development talents and technical teams, and many companies entrust these teams to develop software. Again, software outsourcing can provide companies with faster product development. Entrusting companies or individuals in other countries or regions to develop software can speed up product development, especially when there are development pressures and urgent needs. For example, many companies will commission other companies or individuals to develop certain parts of a new product in order to speed up product development. Finally, there are some risks and challenges associated with software outsourcing. For example, cultural and language differences may lead to communication and cooperation problems, intellectual property and data security issues may cause losses to the company, and entrusting software development to companies or individuals in other countries or regions may face problems in quality and schedule control. In conclusion, software outsourcing is an important business model that can bring cost advantages, technical advantages, and faster product development to companies. However, companies need to be aware of the risks and challenges when outsourcing software, and take appropriate measures to reduce risks and solve problems. In Chapter 6 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces India as one of the top choices for software outsourcing. The following is a detailed description of India as a top choice for software outsourcing. First, India has a large pool of software development talent and technology teams. The software industry in India is growing rapidly and has a large pool of software development talent and technology teams. According to the report, India's software industry has more than 50% of the global market share, and India has the largest number of software development talents in the world. These software developers and technical teams have rich experience and expertise to provide high-quality software development services. Second, Indian software outsourcing companies offer relatively low prices. Indian software outsourcing companies are able to provide high-quality software development services at a lower price than other countries and regions. This is mainly because the labor cost in India is relatively low, and the Indian government also encourages and supports the development of software industry by providing a series of policies and measures to reduce the cost of software development. Once again, Indian software outsourcing companies have good English language skills and cultural background. English is one of the official languages in India, and most of the employees of Indian software outsourcing companies have good English ability, which makes their communication with international customers more smooth. At the same time, India is also a diverse country with rich cultural backgrounds and multiple languages, which enables Indian software outsourcing companies to better understand and adapt to the needs of different customers. Lastly, the Indian government is actively promoting the development of the software industry. The Indian government supports and promotes the development of the software industry through a series of policies and measures, such as providing tax incentives, building software parks, and training software professionals. These measures have enabled the rapid development of the software industry in India and provided a favorable environment for the development of the software outsourcing industry in India. In conclusion, India is one of the top choices for software outsourcing due to its large pool of software development talents and technical teams, relatively low prices, good English proficiency and cultural background, and active promotion and support from the government. These advantages have made India's software outsourcing industry occupy a significant position in the global market. In Chapter 7 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman describes China's position and role in the global supply chain. The following is a detailed description of China and the global supply chain. First, China is the world's largest manufacturing country, with an extensive manufacturing base and abundant labor resources. China's share of global manufacturing output is increasing year by year, and China's share of global manufacturing output has already exceeded 30%. At the same time, China has a large number of labor resources, which makes the labor cost in China relatively low and attracts a large number of multinational enterprises to establish production bases in China. Secondly, China's supply chain integration capability has been recognized by global enterprises. Chinese companies already have rich experience and capability in supply chain integration and management, which enables Chinese companies to provide comprehensive supply chain services, including design, production, and logistics. At the same time, the Chinese government is also actively promoting supply chain integration and upgrading, which has improved the supply chain integration capability and product quality of Chinese enterprises. Again, China's electronics industry has become one of the world's largest electronic industry bases. China's electronics industry is developing rapidly, with huge production capacity and rich experience. China's electronic products have occupied an important position in the global market. Many multinational companies are locating their production bases in China to take advantage of China's manufacturing base and supply chain integration to produce high-quality and low-cost electronic products. Lastly, the Chinese government is actively promoting the upgrading and restructuring of the manufacturing industry. The Chinese government has put forward the strategy of Manufacturing Power and Made in China 2025, which aims to promote the upgrading and transformation of the manufacturing industry and improve the technical level and product quality of China's manufacturing industry. At the same time, the Chinese government is also actively promoting the Belt and Road construction to expand economic and trade cooperation between China and other countries, further enhancing China's position and influence in the global supply chain. In conclusion, China, as the world's largest manufacturing country, has an extensive manufacturing base, abundant labor resources, and the ability to integrate and manage supply chains, making it an indispensable and important player in the global supply chain. With the Chinese government's strategy of upgrading and transforming the manufacturing industry, China's position and role in the global supply chain will be further enhanced. In Chapter 8 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman describes China's role and development in globalization. The following is a detailed description of China and globalization. First of all, China's economic reforms and open-door policies following its reform and opening up have attracted a large amount of foreign investment and technology. China's economic reforms and liberalization policies have led to a gradual shift from a planned economy to a market economy, attracting large amounts of foreign investment and technology transfer. These foreign investments and technology transfers have contributed to the growth and development of China's economy. Second, China has huge labor resources and extensive market potential. China has a large population and abundant labor resources, which makes the labor cost in China relatively low and attracts a large number of foreign enterprises to establish production bases in China. At the same time, China also has a wide market potential and its consumer market is growing rapidly, which provides huge business opportunities for domestic and foreign enterprises. Again, the Chinese government is actively promoting economic development and globalization. The Chinese government has proposed strategies such as the One Belt, One Road to actively promote economic globalization and develop foreign trade and investment cooperation. At the same time, the Chinese government is also actively promoting domestic economic development, strengthening investment in innovation and technology, and promoting economic restructuring and upgrading. Finally, Chinese companies have also played an important role in the globalization process. Chinese companies are playing an important role in the global supply chain and have become global leaders in many industries. At the same time, Chinese companies are also actively investing and cooperating overseas, expanding their influence in the global economy. All in all, China, as the world's largest developing country, has played an important role in the globalization process. China's economic reform and open policy, its labor force and broad market potential, the government's active promotion and enterprise development have all contributed to the growth and development of China's economy, as well as to the development of the global economy and the advancement of the globalization process. In Chapter 9 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman describes the role and impact of brain circulation in globalization. The following is a detailed description of brain circulation. First, brain circulation facilitates the spread of knowledge and technology and innovation. Talent mobility allows people to study, work, and live in different places, which facilitates the spread and exchange of knowledge and technology across countries. At the same time, it also fosters innovation because people from different regions and cultures bring different experiences and perspectives to the table, which helps generate new ideas and creativity. Second, it helps to address labor shortages and skill shortages. Talent mobility can cross borders and regions, allowing the workforce to be used where it is needed, while also addressing labor shortages in certain regions. At the same time, talent mobility can also solve the problem of skills shortage, because talents can learn different skills and knowledge in different places, which can improve the skill level and competitiveness of the whole society. Again, brain drain can promote economic development and globalization. Talent mobility can promote the cooperation and development of multinational enterprises and industries, as well as promote trade and investment between different countries and regions. This can promote economic development and globalization, as well as improve the employment and living conditions of talented people. Finally, there are challenges and problems associated with brain drain. For example, brain drain and brain relapse may occur, which may have a negative impact on certain regions and industries. At the same time, brain drain may also lead to cultural and value conflicts, requiring appropriate cultural exchange and integration. In conclusion, brain drain plays an important role in the globalization process by facilitating the spread of knowledge and technology and innovation, addressing labor shortages and skill shortages, and promoting economic development and globalization. But at the same time, attention needs to be paid to solving related problems and challenges. In Chapter 10 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman describes the role and impact of capital flows in globalization. The following is a detailed description of capital flows. First, capital flows can facilitate investment and economic development. Capital flows allow for the free circulation of capital around the globe, which helps to attract foreign investment and promote domestic investment. At the same time, capital mobility can also promote the development of industries and enterprises, increase employment, and raise living standards. Second, capital mobility can also help promote the transformation and upgrading of industries and enterprises. Capital mobility allows capital to move between different industries and enterprises, which can facilitate the transformation and upgrading of industries and enterprises. At the same time, capital mobility can also facilitate the transfer of technology and knowledge, which can help to improve the competitiveness of the whole industry and enterprises. Once again, capital flows are subject to a number of risks and challenges. For example, capital flows may lead to financial risks and instability, requiring enhanced regulation and risk management. At the same time, capital flows may also lead to inequality and inequity, which requires greater cooperation and coordination among the international community. Finally, capital flows play an important role in the process of globalization, promoting investment and economic development, and facilitating the transformation and upgrading of industries and enterprises. However, attention should also be paid to solving related problems and challenges, strengthening regulation and risk management, and enhancing cooperation and coordination among the international community in order to achieve stable and sustainable development of capital flows. In Chapter 11 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman describes the role and impact of the Anywhere platform in globalization. The following is a detailed description of the Anywhere platform. A ubiquitous platform is a digital platform that can be used anywhere and at any time, such as the Internet, smartphones, and cloud computing. Anywhere platform plays an important role in the process of globalization, including: first of all, the Anywhere platform facilitates the exchange and sharing of information and knowledge. This facilitates the exchange of information and knowledge across countries and regions, which helps to promote innovation and development. Second, ubiquitous platforms also facilitate globalization and international trade. The ubiquitous platform allows businesses and individuals to communicate and collaborate across borders and regions, which helps to facilitate international trade and globalization. Third, the ubiquitous platform also promotes innovation and entrepreneurship. This helps to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as economic development and job growth. Finally, there are some challenges and problems associated with a ubiquitous platform. For example, the ubiquitous platform may lead to information asymmetry and unfair competition, which require better regulation and management. At the same time, the on-the-go platform may also lead to privacy and security issues, which require enhanced data protection and security management. All in all, the Everywhere platform plays an important role in the process of globalization by facilitating the exchange and sharing of information and knowledge, promoting globalization and international trade, and fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. However, attention should also be paid to solving related problems and challenges, strengthening regulation and management, and enhancing data protection and security management in order to realize the stable and sustainable development of the Anywhere platform. In Chapter 12 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the role and impact of unionization and flattening in globalization. The following is a detailed description of unity and flattening. Uniting and flattening means uniting various resources and forces in globalization through digital technologies and platforms to achieve more equal and open cooperation and competition. Jointly, flattening plays an important role in the process of globalization, including: first, uniting and flattening can promote globalization and international trade. Through digital technology and platforms, enterprises and individuals can communicate and cooperate across borders and regions, which can help promote globalization and international trade and accelerate the expansion and development of global markets. Secondly, unification and flattening can promote innovation and entrepreneurship. Through digital technology and platforms, people can start innovation and entrepreneurship anytime and anywhere, which helps promote innovation and entrepreneurship, and also helps promote economic development and employment growth. Once again, joining together and flattening can facilitate the sharing and transfer of knowledge and skills. Through digital technology and platforms, people can acquire and share knowledge and skills anytime and anywhere, which helps promote the sharing and transfer of knowledge and skills and the transformation and upgrading of industries and enterprises. Finally, there are some challenges and problems associated with unification and flattening. For example, unification and flattening may lead to information asymmetry and unfair competition, which require better regulation and management. At the same time, unification and flattening may also lead to privacy and security issues, which require enhanced data protection and security management. In conclusion, integration and flattening play an important role in the process of globalization, which can promote globalization and international trade, innovation and entrepreneurship, and the sharing and transfer of knowledge and skills. However, attention should also be paid to solving related problems and challenges, strengthening regulation and management, and enhancing data protection and security management, in order to realize the stable and sustainable development of unification and flattening. In Chapter 13 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the ways to cope with globalization and makes some suggestions to solve the problems and challenges brought by globalization. The following is a detailed description of the responses to globalization. First, Friedman proposes the concept of flat globalization, which refers to the unification of resources and forces in globalization through digital technologies and platforms to achieve more equal and open cooperation and competition. This can promote globalization and international trade, innovation and entrepreneurship, and the sharing and transfer of knowledge and skills. Secondly, Friedman raised the importance of education. He argued that education is the key to solving the problems and challenges brought about by globalization, and that there is a need to strengthen investment and reform in education to develop human resources with a global perspective and capabilities. Again, Friedman emphasized the important role of government. The government needs to formulate corresponding policies and regulations, strengthen regulation and management, protect the rights of consumers and enterprises, and promote fair competition and sustainable development. Lastly, Friedman raised the need for increased social participation in global governance. He argued that the problems and challenges brought about by globalization require global cooperation and governance, and that the role of international organizations and mechanisms needs to be strengthened to increase the participation and influence of civil society and the public. In short, globalization has brought many challenges and problems that require global cooperation and efforts to solve. Friedman proposes the concept of flat globalization, education, government, and global governance, hoping to promote the stable and sustainable development of globalization and to realize a more equitable, open, and prosperous world. In Chapter 14 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the negative consequences of a flat globalization, the problems and challenges that arise from it. The following is a detailed description of the negative consequences of a tie. First, tiebreakers can lead to job losses and inequality. Due to the trend of globalization, many companies and firms are looking for lower cost and more efficient production methods, and thus moving their production bases to lower cost countries or regions. This may lead to job losses for local workers and also increase the global wealth gap and inequality. Second, a tie may lead to economic instability and unsustainability. Due to the trend of globalization and the close economic ties between many countries and regions, some economic events and risks may have a ripple effect on a global scale, leading to instability and unsustainability of the global economy. Again, a tie may lead to cultural shocks and disappearances. Due to the trend of globalization, cultural exchanges and influences between many countries and regions are increasing, and some traditional cultures and values may be affected and impacted, which may lead to the disappearance of culture. Lastly, the tie may lead to environmental degradation and problems. Due to the trend of globalization, environmental problems and risks among many countries and regions are increasingly intertwined and influenced, and some environmental problems and risks may have a ripple effect on a global scale, which may lead to the deterioration and problems of the global environment. All in all, the balance brings many problems and challenges that require global cooperation and efforts to solve. Fried made recommendations to balance globalization and local linguistics, strengthen education and skills development, increase the participation and influence of governments and civil society, and strengthen global governance and regulation in the hope of promoting stable and sustainable globalization and achieving a more equitable, open, and prosperous world. In Chapter 15 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the concept and importance of environment and parity, highlights the link between environmental issues and globalization, and offers some suggestions for solving environmental problems and achieving parity. The following is a detailed introduction to environmental peace. First of all, environmental peace is the combination of environmental protection and peaceful development in a global context. Environment and peace is an important issue in the era of globalization because environmental issues have a great impact on globalization, and peaceful development and environmental protection are the basis for achieving globalization and sustainable development. Second, there is a close connection between environmental issues and globalization. The trend of globalization and economic development has a huge impact on the environment, such as environmental pollution, climate change, resource shortage, etc. These problems also seriously affect the global economic and social development. Therefore, there is a need for balance and coordination between environmental issues and globalization to achieve environmental peace. Again, Fried put forward some suggestions to solve environmental problems and achieve peace. In his opinion, there is a need to strengthen global governance and regulation, formulate more stringent environmental regulations and standards, and implement green technologies and sustainable development strategies. At the same time, there is a need to strengthen global cooperation and joint efforts, raise global citizenship and environmental awareness, and promote international cooperation and exchange. Finally, environmental peace requires the joint participation and contribution of government, business, academia, and civil society. Governments need to formulate corresponding policies and regulations, enterprises need to implement social responsibility and environmental protection measures, academia needs to conduct research and innovation, and civil society needs to play an active role and participate in the process. In short, environment and peace are important issues in the era of globalization that require global cooperation and efforts to solve. Fried proposes to strengthen global governance and regulation, enhance global cooperation and joint efforts, and the joint participation and contribution of governments, enterprises, academia, and civil society, hoping to realize the combination of environmental protection and peaceful development and promote the stable and sustainable development of globalization. In Chapter 16 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the concept and importance of taxation, discipline, and parity, emphasizes the impact of taxation and discipline on globalization, and puts forward some suggestions to solve the problems of taxation and discipline. The following is a detailed introduction to taxation, discipline, and parity. First, taxation and discipline are important foundations for achieving peace. Taxation is an important basis for government economic management and social public services, and discipline is the basis for enterprise and social order. If there are problems with taxation and discipline, it will have serious impact on globalization and peace. Secondly, the impact of taxation and discipline on globalization is very significant. The unfairness and loopholes in the taxation system will lead to the gap between the rich and the poor and social inequality, and the disciplinary problems will lead to the chaos and instability of enterprises and social order. These problems will seriously affect the progress of globalization and the realization of peace. Again, Fried made some suggestions to solve the problems of taxation and discipline. In his view, there is a need to enhance the fairness and transparency of the tax system, to formulate more just tax policies and regulations, and to strengthen tax supervision and enforcement. At the same time, there is a need to strengthen corporate and social discipline, create a healthy corporate culture and social values, and strengthen disciplinary supervision and law enforcement. Finally, taxation and discipline issues require the participation and contribution of the government, enterprises, and civil society. The government needs to formulate corresponding policies and regulations to strengthen tax regulation and disciplinary enforcement. Enterprises need to implement social responsibility and disciplinary measures, and civil society needs to play an active role and participate in them. In short, taxation and discipline are important foundations for achieving peace, and need to be strengthened in terms of fairness and transparency, as well as regulation and enforcement. Fried proposes to enhance the fairness and transparency of the taxation system, strengthen the discipline of enterprises and society, and the joint participation and contribution of government, enterprises, and civil society, hoping to realize a virtuous cycle of taxation and discipline and promote the stable and sustainable development of globalization. In Chapter 17 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Friedman introduces the concept and importance of defense of open societies, highlights the security threats and challenges facing open societies, and makes some suggestions for defending open societies. The following is a detailed introduction to the defense of the open society. First, the security threats and challenges facing open societies are numerous. Open societies are characterized by openness, freedom, democracy, and pluralism, but they also face security threats and challenges such as terrorism, cyber attacks, criminal activities, and illegal immigration. These threats and challenges need to be effectively defended and addressed by open societies. Second, the defense of an open society requires multiple means. Fried believes that the defense of an open society requires the joint participation and contribution of government, enterprises, and civil society, and requires strengthening the construction and reform of the national security system, enhancing international cooperation and exchanges, improving citizens' security awareness and capabilities, strengthening cybersecurity and information security, and strengthening border management and immigration control. Again, Fried made a number of recommendations for the defense of an open society. He believes that the construction and reform of the national security system should be strengthened to enhance the ability to prevent and combat terrorism, cyber attacks, and criminal activities. At the same time, it is necessary to strengthen international cooperation and exchanges, and establish a multilateral security cooperation mechanism to jointly deal with global security challenges. In addition, it is necessary to improve citizens' security awareness and capabilities, enhance cybersecurity and information security, and strengthen border management and immigration control. Finally, Fried emphasized that defending an open society does not mean sacrificing freedom and democracy. On the contrary, the defense of an open society needs to be carried out under the premise of safeguarding freedom and democracy, protecting citizens' rights and freedoms, and maintaining social stability and security. In short, the defense of an open society is an important task to protect national security and citizens' rights, which requires the joint participation and contribution of the government, enterprises, and civil society. Fried proposed to strengthen the construction and reform of national security system, enhance international cooperation and exchange, and improve citizens' security awareness and ability, hoping to realize the stable and sustainable development of open society. In Chapter 18 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Fried examines the future of the Thai, describes the trends and challenges of the Thai, and offers some suggestions for meeting the challenges of the Thai's future. The following is a detailed introduction to the future of the tiebreaker. First, Fried believes that the trend of tiebreakers is irreversible. Globalization has become an irreversible trend. The development of technology and information has facilitated the process of globalization, and global economic and political interactions have become increasingly frequent. The peace process is an important result of globalization and will continue to have a positive impact on the world. Secondly, the challenges and problems facing the PEG are also increasing. With the deepening of globalization, the negative effects brought by the equalization are also gradually highlighted, such as the widening gap between the rich and the poor, environmental pollution and climate change. In addition, the finiteness of global resources and geopolitical tensions are also challenges to peace. Again, Fried made recommendations to address the future challenges of the Peace Bureau. In his view, it is necessary to strengthen global governance and cooperation, promote sustainable development of globalization, enhance the research and development and application of green technology and renewable energy, strengthen education and training, improve the quality of human resources and skills, and build an open, shared and collaborative global economy. Finally, Fried emphasized that the future of the Peace Bureau requires the joint participation and contribution of governments, businesses, and civil society. Governments need to promote global governance and cooperation, formulate corresponding policies and laws, and protect the rights and interests of citizens. Enterprises need to fulfill their social responsibility, promote sustainable development, and maintain environmental and social stability. Civil society needs to play an active role, participate in public affairs, and promote social progress and development. All in all, the future of the PEG is the inevitable trend of globalization, but at the same time, it also faces many challenges and problems. Fried proposes to strengthen global governance and cooperation, promote sustainable development, and enhance education and training in the hope of achieving stable and sustainable development of the Peace Bureau. In Chapter 19 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Fried emphasizes a people-centered peace, explores the impact of the opportunities and challenges brought about by globalization on humanity, and puts forward some suggestions for a people-centered peace. The following is a detailed introduction to the people-centered equilibrium. First, Fried believes that the opportunities and challenges brought by globalization have a great impact on human beings. The development of globalization provides more opportunities and choices, but also brings more competition and pressure. In the process of globalization, human values and dignity should be fully respected and protected. Secondly, a human-centered tie-up needs to be carried out from several aspects. Fried made the following suggestions. First, strengthen education and training to improve the quality and skills of human resources. Second, strengthen the participation and contribution of civil society to promote social progress and development. Third, strengthen social welfare and protection to protect the rights and interests of citizens. Fourth, strengthen environmental protection and sustainable development to protect the survival and quality of life of human beings. Once again, Fried emphasized that a people-oriented peace requires the joint participation and contribution of the government, enterprises, and civil society. The government needs to formulate corresponding policies and laws to protect the rights and interests of citizens. Enterprises need to play their social responsibility to promote sustainable development and maintain environmental and social stability. Civil society needs to play an active role to participate in public affairs and promote the progress and development of society. Finally, Fried pointed out that a people-centered peace needs to be built on the basis of global governance and cooperation. The development of globalization is a global problem that requires global solutions and actions. All countries should strengthen their cooperation to address the challenges and problems brought about by globalization and promote the process of global governance and cooperation. All in all, a people-centered peace is an inevitable requirement for the development of globalization, which requires the joint participation and contribution of governments, enterprises, and civil society, and is based on global governance and cooperation, strengthening education and training, enhancing the participation and contribution of civil society, strengthening social welfare and protection, and enhancing environmental protection and sustainable development. In this way, we can realize a people-centered peace, so that the development of globalization can benefit humanity and bring more peace, prosperity, and progress. In Chapter 20 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Fried explores the relationship between leadership and parity, emphasizes the importance of leadership in achieving parity, and offers some suggestions for leadership and parity. The following is a detailed introduction to leadership and draws. First, Fried believes that leadership is a key factor in achieving a tie. Leadership stimulates people's creativity and potential, drives innovation and change, and leads people to a better future. In the process of globalization, the role of leadership is even more important and requires leaders with vision and drive to lead people to address the challenges and problems brought about by globalization. Secondly, leadership and pacification need to have the following characteristics. First, a global vision and strategic vision to understand and respond to the challenges and problems brought about by globalization. Second, a spirit of innovation and change to promote the development and application of new technologies and new models. Third, the ability to coordinate and cooperate to promote cooperation and exchange among countries and to promote the process of global governance and cooperation. Again, Fried proposed leadership and tiebreakers. He argued that there is a need to strengthen leadership cultivation and development to improve the quality and capability of leaders, to strengthen leadership sharing and exchange, to establish a shared platform for leadership, and to strengthen leadership execution and implementation to turn leadership into practical action and promote sustainable development of globalization. Lastly, Fried pointed out that leadership and peace needs to be built on the basis of global governance and cooperation. The development of globalization is a global problem that requires global solutions and actions. All countries should strengthen their cooperation to address the challenges and problems brought about by globalization and to promote the process of global governance and cooperation. In conclusion, leadership and parity are necessary conditions for achieving parity, and require characteristics such as global vision and strategic insight, innovation and the spirit of change, and the ability to coordinate and cooperate. It needs to be carried out by strengthening the cultivation and development of leadership, strengthening the sharing and exchange of leadership, and strengthening the execution and implementation of leadership. In this way, we can realize leadership and pacification and promote the progress of global governance and cooperation, so that the development of globalization can benefit humanity and bring more peace, prosperity, and progress. In Chapter 21 of The World is Flat, author Thomas Fried presents some of the reports from the field to show readers the opportunities and challenges brought about by globalization and how people are coping with these challenges and problems. The following reports from the field are presented in detail. First, Fried presented a report from Bangalore, India. Bangalore is a technology city in India that has attracted many international companies and foreign talent. The development of this city demonstrates the rise and opportunities of India in the globalization process. However, Bangalore's development has also brought some problems, such as traffic congestion, environmental pollution, and social inequality. Second, Fried presented a report from China. China is one of the most representative countries in the globalization process, and its economic growth and open-door policy have attracted global investment and trade. However, China's development also faces some challenges, such as environmental pollution, social inequality, and human rights issues. Again, Fried presented a report from the United States. The US is one of the most influential countries in the globalization process, with innovation and technology leading the way in global development. However, the development of the US has also brought some problems, such as income inequality, high cost of education and health care. Finally, Fried presented a report from the Middle East. The Middle East is one of the most controversial regions in the globalization process, with political and religious issues affecting the smooth development of the world. However, the Middle East also has some success stories, such as the development of Dubai and the innovation of Israel. All in all, the reports from the field show us the opportunities and challenges of globalization, and how people are dealing with them. Globalization is a complex process that requires cooperation and exchange between countries in order to achieve sustainable development and common prosperity. We need to pay attention to the problems and challenges brought about by globalization and explore ways to solve them in order to achieve a more equitable and just globalization. Overall, The World is Flat is a very inspiring book that delves into the impact of globalization and the changes that internet technology has brought to the world. It provides not only an in-depth understanding of globalization, but also a vision and suggestions for the future, making it a must-read for those who want to better understand globalization and future trends. If you are interested in globalization and internet technology, or want to learn more about the impact of globalization and future trends, then I highly recommend reading this book. It will open your eyes and give you a deeper understanding of this era of globalization, which is full of opportunities and challenges.